I'm Alicia Williams, Locations Estate Agents Director and Property Specialist. I started in real estate in 2011 and had a background previously in finance and accounting. Real estate was a really nice change for me. I always had a passion with property and also with people, so it was nice to make that transition and follow my passion. Locations Estate Agents was established in 2012. Previously I'd worked for another agency here in Gladstone, but decided it was nice to go out on my own and do things a little differently. We've always had a solutions-based and client-centric focus, so by being the sole director of Locations, we could definitely take that direction and also move forward into the property management space as well. There's been many highlights in my real estate career. If we get a little bit personal and reflect on some of those milestones, you don't at the time realise that they are a milestone. Most recently is our move to 57 Gundoon Street. I'm really excited about what that office is going to be, not only to me, but also to our people, our team, and also our clients and the greater Gladstone community. We're looking at a biophilic lifestyle office, so not your traditional commercial fluoro lights, tiles type setup. It's going to be something that really encourages that indoor-outdoor living, that holistic view around health and also workspaces, and getting the most out of our team and making sure that we can facilitate an environment that's conducive to achieving their personal goals and professional goals. It wasn't a house that I had sold, but the quirkiest house that I had come across, and it's still in our management portfolio, so I won't give away the address, but it had this very sexy retro red, bright red like my lipstick, spa bath in the main bathroom, also accentuated by the retro tiling around it. Lord knows what these people were thinking when they installed it. It definitely lasted the test of time. We're expecting it was maybe in circa 1970s. That house had that spa right up until a renovation about 5 years ago. So pretty quirky. I remember at the time we got some photos, posing in said bathtub, but that was probably a standout for me. Staff are an integral part of our business, and I realised pretty quickly that I can't do everything on my own. There's no I in team, but there is in win. Thank you, Michael Jordan. But it is really important to attract the right sort of people into your business, and there's always going to be change. Change is inevitable for any person, for any business. So when I'm looking for a staff member, it's not someone who works for me or works for Locations. It's someone who works at Locations and I work with them. We don't have that traditional hierarchy structure in our business. I sit in an open plan office. I also had the smallest desk to date as well. I like to hear what's going on. It gives me a really good grounding with the staff, how they're feeling, what's going on in the business, what the trends are, and I feel that is our competitive advantage at Locations, and our people are our biggest and greatest asset. What they do each day, the energy that they bring, how they're helping our clients achieve their goals is something that can only be done collectively as a team. So people who have that client-centric focus, who have a solutions-based focus, who have common sense, because we all know common sense isn't that common, but even if they don't know what they don't know and they're aware of what they need to learn, if they're teachable, they have the right attitude and they reflect our core values, I definitely want to have a conversation with those people. It's really important for people in our team to have their own personal brand, and it's not just because they work at Locations. I'm very mindful of the fact that staff need to have a holistic view about their full working career, and we understand now that retirement isn't something that's always going to be available, not as we always knew it. I am a big believer that when you get to a certain age, you don't hit retirement, and that might be achievable for some people, and that's lovely if they're financially set up in that way. I think you'd hit the next stage of your working life. So what does that look like for those particular people? Making sure they have the assets and the skills to be able to carry them forward into that space. In my spare time, I actually do try to attempt some sort of cooking without killing people. I do like cooking in all seriousness. I find it very therapeutic. I also enjoy gardening, and this is something that, maybe I'm just showing my age now, it's something that I've started to embrace over the last few years. It's taught me patience, and particularly this year I wanted to learn how to be more patient. It's definitely a virtue, and I know that sometimes you go and chase things and people talk about business and hustling, but not being ahead of everyone, and also understanding that everyone has value, and that to see the best in someone sometimes takes patience. You need to be able to see them and watch them grow. Gardening's also taught me that you can't control everything. So you can throw everything at a situation, but some things are outside of your control. You just have to let it go and move on. Gladstone Market is really, really unique, and a few of our salespeople have touched on that today. We are geographically blessed to be at the southern tip of the Great Barrier Reef. By that, I also mean that we have the second largest harbour in Australia. So that obviously means a lot of opportunity for Gladstone, both at a commercial and industrial level, not just for tourism and also accessibility to the harbour. Being on the eastern seaboard, having that nice lifestyle balance between community, employment, and being able to access the water is really, really big. I know there's some other places along the Queensland coast that don't have that accessibility, as well as, you know, the industry and other employment opportunities that we have here. Gladstone's a really funny place. I've grown up here. I've spent some time in Brisbane for uni and also in Early Beach, so I've had a bit of a segue in other areas, as well as the Sunshine Coast. I think everyone wants to move there, but what they forget is the Sunshine Coast is incredibly busy. If the one biggest complaint that we get from people in the southeast corner is the traffic. They're spending half their life commuting. Who wants to be commuting, you know, for all of that time? There's bigger priorities, and if there's something that COVID has taught us, it's to reframe our priorities. Spending more time with family, getting your health right, having that balance in your life, not just being a slave to commuting and doing work. So being in Gladstone has enabled that, where it's a very accessible place. It's great for families, it's great for professionals, it's great for everyone, because it's an excellent climate. And we were only just sitting on the couch just the other day thinking, you know, how great is the weather here? You literally can go out in winter in your shorts, maybe a jumper, and still thongs. I've seen it today. Guy wearing socks and Adidas slides in Main Street is a thing now in 2020. But you can. It's a really great climate, and I think more people from not only the southeast corner but Melbourne, Sydney are realising that, as well as the affordability. Giving back to the community is so important, not only as a business person but as an individual. The community has been there to support me, you know, as I was evolving in my early professional career and then in real estate. There's been some fantastic people here in Gladstone that have lent me their time, that have shared their ideas, that have mentored me, that hold space for me, and I like to pay that back and pay it forward where I can. So encouraging the team to take on those community roles, not just because I say they have to, and it definitely doesn't come up in their performance review, but because I know the internal satisfaction that I get from helping others. And if that's one thing I can impart on them so that they can understand and benefit from themselves, I think that's a great gift to give. But certainly spending time with Rotary, a little less time in that space now just because there's other things that are taking up my capacity, but also with the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I really enjoy helping small business. That is the backbone of our economy and our local economy. So helping other businesses, particularly, you know, post-COVID, coming out of GFC, and also just sharing ideas on a daily is something that I'm very passionate about. So many great suburbs, don't want to discriminate, but I think Catalina is always going to be a standout performer for the Gladstone Market, and there's a couple of reasons for that. It's very, very accessible, so there's lots of, you know, main access points into Catalina. It has several shopping precincts and schools either in it or around the fringe of Catalina, and you get that suburb feel, that established homely suburb feel, only 5 minutes from Gladstone CBD. There are other suburbs that are out further from that, but of course that involves a little bit more travel. If people are looking for a lifestyle change, typically Bourne Island and Tannum Sands comes up a lot, and we do find that people moving to Gladstone from, say, metro areas prefer those coastal areas because, one, they like that feel, and then secondly, they don't mind the 20-minute commute or so backwards and forwards for work. When you're listing with locations, and particularly myself, you're listing with confidence and trust and experience. That's something that a lot of agencies and agents won't have, or they don't have the leverage within their team. As I said before, you know, there's no I in team, but there is in win. And that's really, really important because at locations we have that team-centric focus. No one owns a buyer, no one owns a seller. We want to make sure that that client-centric focus and that solutions-based focus is top of mind. Never ever should a client feel awkward about who are they listing with, who are they selling with. We want to make sure it's a really smooth transition for them because selling a property is a very stressful time. And similarly, when they're renting out their property for the first time or for the second time, there's going to be some little hiccups. So it needs to be really smooth. The communication needs to be absolutely on point. But by having locations, as your listing agent, as your marketing agent, you can list with confidence. You can list knowing that people are going to have your best interests at heart and will work extremely hard for you. We've invested heavily over the last few years in digital technology, and by having assets of people in our team like Chrissy Harris. She's not only a fantastic friend, but her skill level, professionalism, having run businesses on her own before, but that gives our clients like a competitive advantage. We can organise things in-house. We don't have to outsource that. We can make changes very, very quickly, and it makes it cost effective to deliver a high-end marketing campaign for our clients to get their results. Auctions are a fantastic way to sell property on a couple of conditions. There needs to be that strong buyer demand. And where does buyer demand come from? Well, it's basic economics 101. We have supply and demand. In Gladstone, when we had harder times, there wasn't that buyer demand. It was definitely a buyer's market, of course, but we had an oversupply of product or inventory on the market. Now, as things are improving, there's a really, really good opportunity for auction to become a predominant method of sale here in Gladstone. It's not all auction at the present time, and I wouldn't say just convert to auction just because. You really should seek some appropriate advice with your agent on why that might work for you. But in summary, auction is a 30-day contract. When the hammer goes down on the day, it's done, dusted, no conditions, so you wouldn't have to wait for finance or building and pest or any of those other contingencies. It's there and it's done. It's usually a cash sale, and I love the transparency. When you go to an auction, you can see who you're bidding up against. Admittedly, some with phone bids and agents, that's not always possible, but you do see who your competition is. And by bidding at auction, you can secure a property there on the day. You then don't have to go in competition with conditional interest, which sometimes means you won't know who you are actually bidding across. One thing out of COVID we have seen is online auctions, and I love it. If you haven't already seen it, check out the auction group. They're doing a lot of work in that space. Really interesting experience. You don't have to have the video on, so if you're eating your dinner while watching it like I was the other night, great. But it gives you a really good snapshot of just how many more buyers have access to that auction and can potentially bid without having to be physically at the house or premise. I specialise in residential sales. I do have a good handle on obviously leasing as well, because that is a very big part of our business, and I manage the property management team alongside Katrina. But predominantly my role is in sales, and I also have a good feel on marketing too, because we need to know where that is going. Before Chrissy started, that was my role, wearing 100 hats but not really getting much done. So it's great to have these suitably qualified professionals now in our team who can manage different departments and enable me to go out there and really drive the brand that is locations and provide opportunities for our team. My personal goals this year are to complete my AICD course, so that's Australian Institute of Company Directors course. My long-term plan is to obviously sit on various boards and help consult them, and again give back in those roles. Already I'm doing a voluntary committee role with Gladstone Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is great, but I know that can't be there forever. As much as I do love the Chamber, there's always going to be something better for them, something better for me, and to move on and add value in other areas. If I'm not adding value on a board, I need to obviously change tact and pivot in that space. Other goals for me, I'd like to still come back to my yoga teacher course. COVID obviously put some dampener on that, but I'd like to reframe what that looks like for me at the end of this year. A big bucket list item is to finally complete a marathon. Again, COVID, old Rona shut that one down in May, and I admittedly probably wasn't as prepared as I could be, so potentially a blessing in disguise, but looking forward to completing that at the end of this year. From the business's perspective, some pretty big goals coming up. Having just moved office, getting that office finished, and the opportunities that will provide for our team is pretty exciting. Things like client appreciation nights and being able to do them in-house and really show our clients who we are, not just the person, but the space that we provide and the team. That's really, really important. And to raise a profile of the individual team members, that's a pretty big one for me. And also to continue doing great work in the community. I think locations are doing that. We try to affiliate ourselves with organisations that reflect our business ethics and core values. So providing those sponsorship opportunities that touch football, We'd previously done stuff with the hockey and also with kids cricket. I think that's a nice touch. And in times of need, such as COVID, we were able to sponsor a local musician, Nathan Bedford. So he was, going out on his own and doing a bit of a gig on a Saturday night. Well, what better way than to, chip him some money and then also provide a sponsorship opportunity and provide great music for our community. That's pretty exciting. But certainly for the business, looking forward to implementing and continuing a lot of the digital technology and systems and processes that we've built in post-COVID. That's pretty exciting, and I think that will be a big turning point not only for our business but the industry as a whole. Renovate 4680 is definitely on the agenda again for 2020. It's one of the key projects that our agency runs in partnership with some of our sponsors. If you are a potential sponsor in that space, we'd love to talk to you. It's great profiling experience. You have exclusivity in that role as a business. So, for example, there would not be two real estate agents competing as sponsorship in that space. Fantastic competition for the local community to get involved in. So it will be the third year running. We've already had a lot of interest from businesses and people, and we know post-COVID as well that lots of people are starting to change their living spaces to deal with that work from home and that life balance. It was probably gone by the wayside in recent years or in the last 10, 20 years. So Renovate 4680, very, very exciting competition. We're going to introduce a few more new categories this year. Stay tuned for more information. Locations Estate Agents has always invested heavily in innovation, forward thinking and digital marketing. We understood very quickly that that's where our market was heading, and that's why it was really important to bring Chrissy Harris and contractors such as Wes and Cassie into our team to really stitch that fabric together. Not only are we promoting the brand, but we're promoting individual staff profiles and building up their portfolio. They're always going to have the next stage of their working life, and we've been big believers in not only them having their business but a side hustle, and that side hustle could be being a great parent, or it could be another business idea that they wanted to float. So leading by example, last year Chrissy and I collaborated and birthed, for a better word, Lead Media Co, and that is a specialised marketing agency that deals in digital marketing, social media and project management. Really, really cool space. We've worked with some entrepreneurs already and doing a video series for them, as well as industry, something we're both experienced with and passionate about, and it's great to have excellent people a part of that team, Cassie and also Wes, who make that all very, very possible.